I've been working on this picture now for a week. It's a bigger picture. It's a 20 by 40, certainly bigger than I'm used to recently, that is. Got to say, I think it's coming along really well. I'm really pleased with it. There's quite a lot of detail in the trees and things. But I was going to do a video today of me doing the water. I'm not sure how much of that I'm going to get done today. So I'm going to maybe do that for the next video. But I'm going to work on this tree here now, and I'm going to film that for you. But I know some of you have been asking about the setup in the studio here, and in particular things like the arms that I'm using to hold the tablet, and got another one down there that's holding the camera on the palette. And I'll just give you a closer look. So that arm is a Manfrotto, and you've got this clamp that holds it onto the easel, and then that's just suspended on that arm. Now this, I can't remember what that's called, but I'll put a link in the description where you can buy these items. Tablet that I use is the Samsung Tab S, I think it's called, and that's the 10.5 inch, I think. Got another arm there that's exactly the same, with the same clamp and the same camera mount. And then I've got another one here which is a slightly different arm, same clamp, but that arm it's got like two joints, and it's a little bit more sturdy. And sometimes I put a camera up there pointing down at the picture, so it just gives you a different angle. And then the main tripod I use for actually filming the picture is this Manfrotto here, and that's pretty much the setup. Okay, so let's get working on the tree. So last week I just put in the sort of basics of the branches just so that I can see where everything's going with the tree. There's a lot more highlights on the tree trunks here, and of course there are considerably more branches, and of course you've got a certain amount of foliage on that. It's not a really thick tree. You're going to be able to see quite a lot of the background through it, but I'm just going to show you how I'm going to do that. First of all, I think I'm going to just kind of block in the foliage. Once I've done that, then I'll go and put the highlights on and a few more branches. But let's mix up some paint for that now. I've got this tree and texture brush. Let's see how we can, if that's going to give enough definition. It might be slightly too much of a furry, you know, sort of soft look, which we don't want, but let's give it a try. I'm going to use just a touch of, you can't see that, but it's liquid original. So by mixing in some of the liquid, it's going to give you a little bit more flow, and it'll make the paint marks using this brush a bit more defined, so take away that sort of furry nature. So I'm mixing in ivory black, a bit of Windsor lemon, so we've got a sort of a mid-green there. And let's see, I might have to add some blue in with this as well, but just dabbing using the end of that tree and texture brush. It's still giving you a little bit of a sort of less defined look, so I'm just going to add a little bit more liquid and see if that makes any difference. Okay, maybe add a bit more, mix a bit more paint so I can pick a bit more up on the brush. So that seems to be working quite well. So I'm going to do the rest of the tree now, like this, using this technique. I think because there's not that much definition using this technique, I'm going to move on to using a rigger brush. I think it's just a little bit too, I don't know, it's not the kind of leaves just aren't defined enough. And now I've moved on to that rigger brush. I'm using some white spirit, some thinner, just to thin that paint down so it's a little bit more watery. Let's see if we can sort of get a little bit more structure to it. Okay, so I'm just doing the darker areas of this tree at the moment. The greens, or the highlighted leaves that are over the top, much lighter and much warmer as well. So that's really going to make that tree stand in front of these sort of cooler trees behind. So I'm just going to continue with this technique, I think, because this seems to be working quite well. And I'll get the rest of this tree blocked in, and then we'll go into doing the highlights of the trunks, and I'll show you how I do that. So now I'm going to do some of the highlights on the trunks and on the branches here. So I'm going to mix in with the colour I've already used here for the darker greens, just continue to recycle that, and I'll just try and get that colour right. So I've just recycled that colour here. I'm just going to use a bit of burnt sienna and a bit of cadmium yellow light, and that's giving us a little bit of a green look. And it's just on these sort of upper branches here, it doesn't seem quite as bright, the highlights. I'm just going to do a little bit here and there. So now, just brightening up on some of those highlighted areas. We don't need to put in full, sort of long branches here. You're kind of just suggesting what's there, because some of them are going to be behind the foliage. Some of them also don't have any light on them, so you can only see, little bits like that. Sort of broken lines. So now putting on the sort of lighter greens here, sort of more highlighted areas. I'm doing a warm, fairly warm green. It's quite, it's been thinned down quite a lot. It's giving me a nice sharp edge. It's not as light as it's going to be. I'm just going to put on those sort of intermediate colours first, and then we'll go in with the highlights in a minute. This shouldn't take too long doing this lighter section. But just using the rigger brush again and just getting these nice tight little marks here, tight brush marks.